Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the game Traces of Victory. This is from VUCA Simulations. And what you're looking at right here is the turn track for the Combined Assault, which is the campaign game. You can see it is 12 turns. There at the top. I did place the mud marker with the turn track rather than on the weather track. Turn one is predetermined as being an overcast and muddy turn, which means no air support for the allies. And there are some other special rules that we'll get into as we go along, but I did want to show these tracks here so you can see. It does show victory point track there at the bottom. You see the weather track, which we do not roll for on turn one, as I just mentioned. Then the special rules and so on in the along underneath the turn track, showing how many headquarters can be in the cup for both sides, as well as any other special limitations that may occur. Now up here we have the Allied box, the Allied tracks. And as you can probably see here, we got a bunch of chits on here, or counters. Those, of course, represent the units that will be arriving. It says unit arrivals. The American forces, as they are primarily American, will arrive based on when their headquarters are activated. And you do have some control as the player as to when those activations occur, in which turn they occur. And so you can see first activation for each of those corps will get you the units next to them. And then you have a second activation, a third activation. There's also the reserve units. Then at the top, there are two boxes for eliminated units. And there at the bottom left is the air support. They're all unavailable at the moment, so they're sitting there in the unavailable side. And then under there, next to there rather, you have the command chit pool of the 3 command chits that I did not select to use this turn. There are 6 total. We get a free one from the 7th Army, so I'll be using that first. That actually happens before turn 1 officially begins, and we'll see that in a moment. And then, of course, at the top, and I'm sorry this is a little shaky. I'm doing handheld right now, which I really don't like to do, but there's our German box. Theirs is a little bit more simple. You can see the turns on which their reinforcements arrive. They also have a command chit pool, which I have not yet set up, and I will do that momentarily. And then they have their own eliminated units box. Now, the Germans will have 2 of their command chits that can be put into the cup for this turn. So I will choose those out here in a moment and get things rolling. Now let's take a look at the map here. So here at the top left, if you will, we have Metz. That is the big concentration right there, urban area. And you can see some of the fortifications of both the Maginot and Siegfried lines, the Maginot line being the one closer to the front line. And you see Saarbrücken there, kind of on the left side. That is right up against the Siegfried line. Then you see units of the U.S. Third Army under Patton. They are kind of the tan background ones along the edge there. The Germans are, of course, that kind of dark gray. We scroll down, you see more of Patton's army down here. You'll also note that both the Germans right here, it's the 11th Panzer Division, and the Americans down here have 2 4th and 7th Armored Divisions that are both unable to move until we hit game turn 4. So there's not going to be a lot of armor action to begin with, although the Americans will be able to bring in the 10th Armored Division on the first activation of the 3rd Army. So we may do that. The 3rd Army's 20th Corps, as you can see over here. Okay, and then we have some Germans that are kind of down here on their lonesome, so to speak. They have, this is their positions. The 7th Army is going to be entering in this area. You can see the 15th Corps and the 6th Corps. Those are part of the 7th Army. They will be coming in here shortly. Okay, so you're looking at the map again here. Now, I did pull out my 2 chits that I'm going to use here for the Germans. That would be the both from the 1st Army, the 13th SS, and the 82nd. And these are the units in this arc up here, not the bottom area, which is why I have the camera kind of focused on here. That is because the American forces have not arrived at the south yet, but they are here from the west with Patton. So I wanted to be able to, from the German side, be able to react based on chit draws or prepare myself. Obviously, we have the 11th Panzer that cannot move, but the Americans are also hamstrung in terms of their own armor. Now, for the Americans, I have selected. I could only have added one from the 7th Army, so I elected to take the two of the 3rd Army to put them in there, and we get a free activation of 1 corps of the 7th Army. So I chose the 15th. So this one will get activated first, and I'm going to put it on the executed because that's what we're going to use first. The other thing that has to go in the cup is this supply check chit. When that is drawn out, we have to run a supply check on all the units, which initially at least is probably going to be pretty easy unless it comes at the very end of the turn. And even then, I doubt that we'll probably be able to really isolate anybody. But let's get to our activation of the 15th Corps of the 7th Army. So if you remember when we were looking at the Allied, I forget what they're called now, the Allied card, which is right here. Off to the left here, you can only see like the very last one here. But this is the units that would be able to come on in the first activation of the 15th Corps. So these are the units that will be coming in. We have their headquarters, right? And their area is over here, which I know is off camera. So I will adjust the shot after I put the counters out. And actually, let me pause and do that right now. Okay, so down here are our units that are arriving this turn. I've already put these 2 guys on the first hex here. You can see them, right? The 313th, 315th regiments. Okay, so they have to pay the entry cost. There is a road here, so that entry cost for them here on our terrain effects chart, we have road, which is what's in here, non-mechanized 1. So it costs them 1, and they're going to stay on the road, at least initially. So that's 1, because you have to count it. And I'm just going to move the whole stack because they are identical in terms of movement factor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they'll go up here and stop there at no Mexi. Okay, there are bridges on some of these. You can probably see there's a bridge right here crossing the river, which I believe is the Moselle, I think. Don't hold me to that, but I believe that's the river. The Rhine is over here, is that way. Sometimes I forget how zoomed in I am. So now we have here our HQ, right? So this is our core headquarters, which does have combat ability. That number in the middle, the 2, that's their combat ability. The 6 in the hexagon, that is their command range. And the 6 in the white box, that is their movement factor. And of course, they are with the 314th Infantry Regiment. So they're going to go 1, 2. Actually, can go 1. Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, let's do it. 1, 2. Now this road is gray. So if we look here for a gray road, I believe that is actually a railroad, which means you use other terrain. But there is a bridge right there crossing it. So since that's a railroad, we have to pay the movement cost to go to this. And I could have just entered there. So maybe we should just do that. We're going to enter this hex and just pay the cost for that, which is rough, which still only has a movement cost of 1 because we're infantry. So then we'll move here, which again is rough. So that's 2. Then this, I believe, is clear, which of course, oh, we're in mud. I totally forgot. So correction time. Mud has its own column here. So clear costs 2, rough costs 2. So that's 4 just to get here. and they only have, well, the HQ has a 6. So we're going to leave the HQ stacked with the infantry unit for now. You can have 2 combat units and 1 headquarters in the same hex. So I could have, and perhaps well, we'll see. This is, the last unit we have is actually a mechanized unit. It has a movement factor of 12, but I'm not sure I want to leave them hung out to dry here. So we could go up the road. If we went 1, 2, actually for this, let's see, mud on a road. Now, road does not degrade because of mud, except for these guys. Regular foot non-mechanized units, their terrain cost is a 1, whether it's mud or not if you're on a road. For mechanized units, it's a half without mud and 1 with mud. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to cross the river. And then I think we're going to swing this way. So we're going to go into rough here, which is, for them, that is 4. So that would be what, 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 10. That would be 12. So they're going to stop right there. Now, what it says you can do to kind of show that a unit's been activated is just kind of turn the counters to show that they've been activated. They also provide you with these handy dandy HQ movement, so that you can say, well, we started here, for example, and our HQ is there. Now it moved. And so to trace supply during this turn, we have to count from here. So everybody, I believe, is still going to be in range, because you ignore a lot of this other stuff in here and you just say, well, it's within range. So that comes in handy for your activation. And I think that is it for them. So we would now draw a chit to see what activates next. I'm going to draw my chit here. And it is the 3rd Army 12th Corps, purple, which are, well, you can see one of them right here. So let me reset my shot. Okay, so now this is a regular activation. We are now in the first turn legitimately. So just a brief look at the sequence of play. We skip the weather determination phase in turn 1, already kind of talked about that. Then we have the command chit selection phase. So this is what we're going to do. Then we'll go through the action phase, and then we'll cycle back around. As you can see, kind of these all feed back around to the action phase. And then we'll just kind of continue to draw chits until the turn is over. Then we'll do the end turn phase. All right, so the Americans get 2 moves in a row. So now I have to kind of try and decide what I want to do here. Our objectives for this are Saarbrücken and Metz, which are both, well, Metz is right up here, and Saarbrücken is north of where my finger is right here. So we will need to kind of drive in that direction. So we're going to kind of probably try and take these guys and kind of go into this gap and turn. And then we got to count on 7th Army to, deal with these Germans over here. So with that in mind, let's start moving. Okay, so let's see. Who do we want to move first? Now, looking again, we're in a mud turn, so we definitely have to take that into account. Let's move. You know what? Let me do the movement off camera, and then we'll talk about combat. Assuming I get close enough to do some combat, which I think I will, because we have some guys here that are pretty close. All right, movement complete. So I moved we basically did what I was going to say. We took the guys that were lined up along here. This guy started here, went up the road, and then cross country there, because his movement is 12 because he's mechanized. These guys each moved basically 2 hexes or 1, depending on how close they were to the enemy already. So we've now got a situation where I can apply good force to this guy and this guy, and either this one or this one. And this guy moved up, but he couldn't quite get to the front. So I also moved our headquarters. We started here in Toul, and I moved up basically 3 hexes along the road and stopped here outside of Nancy. Yeah, which I'm sure that's not how the French pronounce it, but here in the U.S. we call it Nancy. All right. Because to move into the city, I think along a road is okay. Yeah, it's 1. So actually, I should move them there so they're a little closer to everybody. Because their range is a 6. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's our furthest out in that direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4 there. So we're good. Everybody's in. I forgot a rule. This is why we look. It costs 2 movement points to enter an enemy zone of control. What that means is this guy was here, I think, and that guy was here. So that would actually cost them 6, I guess, instead of 4. They don't have. So both of these would then have to back up 1 to here. And now that I know that, I would stop that guy there as well, just to prevent the Germans from attacking them. Now, I think this one actually legitimately could get to there because he was here, I think. So this one probably should be, well, actually, no, because if he was here, which I think he was, well, let's see. On the back, you can check their starting hex, 2604, which is right here. So that's only 1 hex to move there. So that would be okay. So he's okay to move here. Now this one started in 2504, which is right there. So he would also be okay to do, right? 2504 was here. He can move up 1 as well. I think we'll put him here. And then these 2 came only 1 hex, I remember. This one came down. He was over here, I think, and we moved down along the road and crossed at the bridge. Let me double check on this guy. He was at 2604, so he's good. Then these 2, we have 2706 and 2605. 2706 is here, so that's 1, 2, so he would have to stop there. That's this one. 2605 is here, so he can move in. Okay. Now that I know that, I would probably have taken this guy a different route. So he started in 2906, I think. Yes, 2906, which is here. So we cross the bridge, which costs 1, and then we would go. He can go wherever he wants, but let's put him here. Actually, no, let's stack him with this guy. So now we still have some punch we can put out here. All right, so now we're going to do the combat sequence. So here in our trusty player aid, we have the combat procedure, as you can see. So we're going to determine attack and defense strengths, adjust for attacking across rivers, streams, canals. None of that is in effect right now. We're going to calculate our odds. Then we're going to apply the column shift modifiers for terrain and mud. We definitely have mud. We don't have any air units. And combat intensity, we can choose to make it more intense. I probably won't do that. We'll talk about that in a future turn. Then we roll a die on the CRT, which is up here. And then we apply the combat results to the attacker or defender. And then on this result, we would, what is that? It's a star. Roll a die to determine possible attacker losses. If attacker used intensity bonus, we would then roll die to determine additional attacker losses. So this is what I was talking about. If we go for an intense attack, we would roll, and if we only did 1 shift, we would lose a step on a 1 or a 2, and a 1 to 4, and we're talking D6 here. Obviously, you get that's a big chance, a 2/3 chance of losing a step. So we'll start here. So we're going to attack this hex, which has a combat value of 4, which is pretty strong. And we'd be attacking it with 8. Now, he's in clear terrain, but we do have mud. So it's 8-4, which is, of course, 2-1. So that's this column right here, right? But we have shifts for mud, which shifts left. So that makes it 1-1, or 1.5-1, I'm sorry. So you can see we don't want to roll low. We'll need a 5 or a 6 to force them to retreat. So let's give it a shot. I'm going to put this here so you guys can see. You can't see the whole thing. Here's our dice. We get 2 red dice. And we got a 3, which I believe in this case is nothing. 3 is nothing. Okay, so that was a wasted attempt there. Well, I'll leave this here because we're going to do some more. Now, let's do, so these guys are done. I'll just turn them. We're going to attack here. We'll attack him. So this time we're going to go with both of these. So that's a 10. And the one underneath he won't participate in this one because he's going to join the attack on that one. So we're going to have a 10-2, which is a 5-1. We again get the 1 column shift. He's again in clear. So from 10-1, which is the highest I'm sorry, not 10-1, 5-1. We're going to take a shift to the left, make it 4-1. So we're in pretty good shape. We do have an opportunity to even cause a step loss. So let's see what we get here. And we got a 4. Trust me. Trust me, bro. It's a 4. All right, so a 4 here is RR, which is a 2-hex retreat. Okay, so he has to retreat 2 hexes, so we'll just go 1, 2. They get to advance after combat, so we'll just move this guy up here. And I think I'll leave him in place, but I'm going to turn him, and I'm just going to remove him for the moment. So we got 5, 5, and 5, 15-2. That is, of course, a 7-1 because we round down. And then the shift would give us a 6-1. So let's roll our die. And we again got a 4. A 4 on the 6-1. 6-1. 4, 6-1 is 1 RR. So an XRR means you lose a step and retreat 2 hexes. So he is going to get reduced. So these are the counters, full strength side. And then on the back, you see the stripe, and his strength decreases to a 1, his combat strength. And he has to retreat 2 hexes. So he's going to, he was what, here, right? 1, 2. And we'll put this guy back. We'll let these 2 move up. These guys will stand pat. Now it is possible, I believe, if I remember correctly, to advance more than 1 hex. If you are a mechanized unit, non-mechanized may advance 1 hex. Mechanized may advance 1 or 2, even if the defender only retreated 1 hex. But you always have to advance first into the vacated hex. So, and then we have 1 final attack if we want to make it. It would be a 2-1, which would get, of course, a 1-1 because of that. The terrain is still clear, so it's probably worth giving it a shot. So let's give it a shot at 1-5-1. And we rolled a 2, which makes this a bad decision. So 1.5-1, we rolled a 2. That's attacker 1. We lose a step. So these 2 units are identical. I'm just going to take it from the one on the bottom. He is going to be reduced. And this guy will stay full strength. And we will turn it so that we know. And that ends that activation. So now we will draw another chit. See what we get here, if I can get one. And we get the German First Army's 82nd Corps, which are the guys to the north. Not these guys, but the ones to the north. So we'll put that over there in the executed area, and I'm going to shift the map, and we'll see if the Germans want to do anything. My guess is they probably won't do much. Okay, so we are looking at the 82nd Corps here. This, of course, is from the other command, so they are not part of this. Now, we have all these units here in Metz, some of them stacked double, to make, obviously being in a city is beneficial. Looking at combat, I didn't talk about this because all three attacks I made were in clear hexes. But if you have a major city, which Metz is, you get a 1-column shift to the left. Of course, when we get to the Maginot line, 1 to the left. 2-time defense if you're attacking the Siegfried line. So things to keep in mind as we hopefully, from the American side, make a little bit of an advance here. All right. So looking at what the Germans have, right? We have some fortification here. He's not moving. He's sitting behind a river, sitting behind a river, sitting behind a river. I mean, we could move the headquarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we move the headquarters up like 1, maybe. I mean, he's sitting behind the Maginot. But if we did move him here, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this guy is in command, which he would not have been before. I can put this here if I want to. We don't really need it, but just for an example's sake, I did have the one for the Americans down on Toul. So that is going to be it, I think, for them. They're just going to move their HQ up, and we're going to move this. Okay, let's draw our next shit here. And we get the supply check. Okay, so the supply check. Well, here in turn 1, as I said when we were starting up, it's not much has changed to an extent. So I'll just talk about how supply is determined rather. A supply line is a series of adjacent hexes going from a unit to a friendly supply source. Now, let's see, do we have a supply source here? Yes, there's one right here. That's a supply source for the US. There's a German supply source over here as well. So they're color coded. And the green and the kind of darkish blue-gray is a little difficult to discern, but generally speaking, the northern part of the map, the north and eastern part of the map is German supply. The southern and western portion is Allied supply. So you have to be able to trace here. Now, rivers, if they're bridged, you can trace it across the river. So this is the Moselle, and we being the Allies, in this case, loosely, since I'm playing both sides, the Allies hold river crossings down below. So let me just slide the map up so you can see this a little better. So thinking about this area here, there is a bridge right there. There's another bridge right here. So obviously we can trace back to this supply point pretty easily. And everybody else is kind of along the edge of the map as far as Third Army goes. So they're good. These guys down here at the very bottom, was the first 7th Army activation. They entered on an entry hex that was a supply source for the US. So they are definitely in supply. The Germans are still well within supply because they have nobody that's been cut off, and they are still tracing back to their original supply sources. So everything is good. So things you have to keep in mind: the line can't pass through an enemy controlled hex, an enemy occupied hex, an enemy zone of control, with, of course, there is the exception for that effect being negated by the presence of a friendly combat unit or HQ, or an unbridged river hex side. The line can, however, be traced over an unbridged stream or canal hex side. And the supply line can be of any length. Okay. So if and when we end up with someone out of supply, we'll talk about the effect that has. But for now, we are going to move on and draw another chit. There are 2 remaining, one for the Germans, one for the Americans. And we draw the other German one. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. So we're talking about, whoops, did not need to shift that back. What am I doing? I went the wrong way. All right. We're talking about this group here, which is the 13th SS Corps. Looking at them, right, here's their HQ. Can we get out to 6 hexes and still be within command? I don't think he can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's one away. So he's just going to move back 1. That will allow him to stay in command. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's good. Now, we may want to consolidate. So we can talk about the effects of moving out of an enemy zone of control. So let's consider the case of this unit right here, which of course is within the zone of control of these two American units. Now, as far as how they could get out movement-wise, so we're going to look at zone of control effects on movement. That is rule 9.2 right here. And it says enemy zone of control affect movement in the following manner. Entering a hex within an enemy zone of control costs a unit 2 additional movement points. These are extra costs are cumulative, meaning if you move into one and then continue moving and move into another one. Now, that also means, of course, you can exit one. So if you leave an enemy zone of control, you expend 2 movement points in addition to the cost of the terrain of the hex entered or any hex side that you're crossing. Crossing a river hex side is not allowed if the hexes on each side of the river are in enemy zones of control, even if the river hex side is bridged, and even if there are friendly units in the enemy zones of control. Now, this guy's a mechanized unit. He's actually fairly powerful. But what I'm thinking here, trying to play devil's advocate, is we want, as the Germans, to prevent the Americans from taking Saarbrücken, because if they fail to take Saarbrücken or Metz, then that would make things very difficult for them in terms of achieving victory. So we want to avoid that. Now, if we move him, say, here, we pay 2 just to move out of this zone of control. Then we would be paying another 2, I think, because it's clear. Clear, mud, yes, mechanized in mud, clear terrain 2. Okay, so that's 4. So he's got 10. That's plenty. We can move him here. That would be 6. And then we can move him into this rough terrain, which costs 4. So that's perfect. So that's 10. That allows him to stack up here in a terrain that's going to get a 1-column shift to the left when and if the Americans come up and attack it. And other than that, I mean, we've got some mechanized units up here as well. I'm inclined to leave them be, largely because we've got now a complete string here of units that the Americans will have to attack. The Americans want to avoid casualties as much as possible. That is something to keep in mind in terms of how much do you want to press your luck. So you're kind of running against the clock here. You've got 12 turns. Each turn covers 2 days. You've got 12 turns to get to Saarbrücken and take Metz. Well, take both, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to do that. If I pull the map back down here, you can see Saarbrücken. It's here. Closest American units are along this map edge here, and of course down that way. And then the 7th Army is all the way at the bottom, but if they can achieve a breakthrough against the German forces down there, which are not quite as powerful as the SS Corps here, they would be able to perhaps drive up the map once we get into some dry weather and help on the push at Saarbrücken. So, having said that, we are now complete with that German activation, and I'm going to draw the last chit, which is the 3rd Army's 20th Corps. And I'm going to put that right here. And 20th Corps gives us these 3 armored units on its first activation. Okay, they enter in any non-difficult terrain except with roads on the map edge between hexes 1000 and 2100. So 1000 is this guy right here in the corner, and 21 is down here where my finger is. So if we want to use these to try and affect some kind of breakthrough, I would like to bring them in on a road, probably. Now, this gray, I believe, is our friendly neighborhood railroad, which doesn't do us much good in terms of costs. These are the units we're talking about. We got CCA, CCB, and CCR. They're all identical, 8 4s and 10 movement factors. So let's see. We want to, well, we can come in here. That's a railroad as well, though. All the roads have units sitting on them already. guess I don't have to bring them in immediately. We'll stick them there on the map edge here. Let me zoom out a little so we get a better view. Okay. Now we can see that whole area of operations. This is the southernmost. Well, we need a little bit more. Go out a little more. There we go. That unit right there at the bottom, this guy, is the southernmost unit of the Third Army. Okay, we're going to push on here. So we're going to say he's going to go, now this costs 2. So we're going to go 2. And then he can go here. Actually, he can't. He has to stop here. And I think I screwed that up down here again anyway. I'm an idiot. So 2, then this would be, that's rough, which I don't think matters because he's on a road. So that would only be 1. So I think maybe we'll stop there. Let's move this guy here. And yeah, because we can't move into their zone of control. Although I could move here. We'll just move him from here to here. Which he can do because that costs 4 total. 2 for moving there, terrain-wise, and 2 for moving into the zone of control of this guy right here. Then likewise, we'll move this guy down to open up this spot mainly, open up that slot for my armor to come in. I can also go a 10-2 attack on this unit, which is not inside the city, won't get the extra column shift. So that's worth a little bit, I suppose. Then we have our HQ here, and he's not actually even on a road. The interesting thing is the river, even if I moved them here and the Germans were to attack, they would not be able to actually do much. Because if I remember correctly, the zone of control for crossing a river, they do not extend. So, and attacking across an unbridged hex side is not really useful, to be honest. But if we look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to that one, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these 2 are out of command, which means they can't attack. So what we really need is to actually bring them up north. We'll do that on turn 2. Move them up here to the southern edge of town. And we're going to bring, let's see, we'll move him down 1. We'll move both of these guys down 1 to here. Because to move further would put them in a zone of control. Even if we went here, because that's on the same side of the river. The river runs right through the middle of Metz. So they're going to move there and stop. So their HQ started here. We're not going to move a bunch of people out of HQ range anyway. We're going to go, he's got a 12, so we can be a little bit more, let's say, adventurous here. We're going to go 2. And this is 4. And they're bridged there. Okay, so I think if it's bridged, yeah, it's still not zone of control. And when we attack, which we will probably likely do soon, because we need to get across the river. Once we get across the river, Saarbrücken's not that far away. So that means also that I would probably want to move these guys up as well. So we'll go 2, 4. They're actually already behind the Maginot Line, which is somewhat useful. They'll go 2 and stop there. Now we can bring in our armored units here, right here, which is a road, so they can start on a road. And we're just going to push 2 of them right into that hex there. This guy will go here. And now we've got ourselves a little bit of an advantageous situation. So I think we'll do one more combat and then wrap turn 1, and that'll end this video. So our combat is going to be this one and these 2. Now you see the slashed values there on that armored hex, 8-4 for their combat. So what that means is the first one before the slash is their attack value. The second one is their defense value. Okay, it's not like one's hard target, one's soft target, right? These are bigger units. These are regimental size units. So there's combined arms built in to some extent. And we're going to have 16 plus 5 is 21 to 2. So that's going to be on the 10 to 1, which is, of course, the highest it can go. But they are going to get a shift from mud, but that's the only shift they're going to get. It's almost tempting to attack the city, but I'd rather do that when it's not mud. So that makes it a 9 to 1. So let's roll the die. I'm just going to roll it on the board. And we got a 5, which is a really good roll. So 9 is 3 steps. So he's gone because he only has 2 steps. And the retreat won't even matter because he's been killed, and we'll advance him up. So they have their first eliminated unit. I'll throw that in the eliminated unit box. And that is all. I think could do this one 16 to 2. But if we did that, we'd get a shift for mud and we'd get a shift for the city as well. So that would be a 2-column shift. So you can see here for a major city, you get a column shift. And then, of course, mud also gives you a column shift. So that is 16 to 2, which is 8 to 1. That would actually knock it down to a 6 to 1. That's actually not bad. We should do that. There's no negative on that from the American side. So let's do that. 4. So 4 on 6 to 1 is 1 RR. So they lose a step and have to retreat. So they lose a step and they have to retreat 2 hexes. So they'll retreat back here behind the city. Now the question is, do we want to advance in there? I think we probably do. And here's what we're going to do, actually. We're going to take these 2, and one's going to go here. The other one's going to cross the bridge and stop right there. Now, that's a little risky because their defense factor is only a 4. So this right here would give the Germans a 1-to-1 if they want to attack it. But I wanted to seize a bridgehead across the river, and then next turn, hopefully, we can hold it and start moving forces in there. Now, we're in the city now, which is good, but it's also bad because we've got all of this to deal with. So that is going to end turn number 1. We'll go through the end turn phase of our sequence of play in here. I wanted to look at it to make sure I don't forget anything. So the end turn phase, victory determination, we do not have to do that. Oh, this is interesting. I forgot about this rule. The Metz fortifications. The German player can always opt to skip any of his drawn chits and not play them in order to activate all units in Metz City or its fortification hexes. That's useful. Oh, they do have a fortification. I forgot about that. So their fortification, let's check this real quick here. Fortifications. 3-time defense, 4-time defense. Okay, so let me recalibrate this then. So we had a 6 to 1 after the 2 column shifts, but we would have tripled his defense to a 6. So that would have been 16 to 6, which is only 2 to 1. All right, I'm going to undo this here because I wouldn't have made that attack. So we're going to put these guys back here. I thought that was too easy to be true. We'll flip this guy back over and put him back. No harm, no foul. You can see how you screw up occasionally. I totally forgot about the fact that the city is fortified. Because if you look at it, you can see the dots in the line indicating it's fortified. So Metz is a tough nut to crack. All right, so I'm not going to waste my time with that until I can start applying air power and so forth. So that ends the turn. Thank you for watching. There will be more. Quick shout out to my channel members. I appreciate you guys' support. And for everybody else, thanks for watching. Please consider liking, sharing, hyping, maybe even subscribing. Also, if you have anything to say, comments, or questions, please post them in the comment section. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I thank you again for watching. I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.